Okay, so now we're going to start on the flow chart. But before I do, I just want to let you know that it may be that you can hear a TV in the background. My father-in-law is watching a football game, and if you look in the reflection in my glasses, my producer is actually over there doing some sort of weird dance thing. You may be able to see it in the reflection of my glasses, but you'd have to probably zoom in to do it. But that's not the point here. That's not the point. The point is to focus on what we're doing. So I want you to go to your flow chart, and we're talking about the motion to open the speakers list. So this is how you say the motion. Thank you, and remember, when you say thank you, honorable chair and fellow delegates, I want you to look at the chair and then look at your fellow delegates, but I'm just going to be looking at you while we're doing this. So you're going to say thank you, honorable chair and fellow delegates. Cameroon moves to open the speakers list with a speaking time of 1 minute. Now, remember, when you make this motion to open the speakers list, you have to mention a time. You can't motion to open the speakers list, right? There has to be a time. Now, if you said the motion properly, the chair will say that motion is in order. Sometimes they'll say thank you. And they'll typically go ahead and sometimes ask for additional motions as well. The speaking time doesn't have to be a minute. It can be a minute, it can be 45 seconds, it can be 30 seconds. And so it's up to the discretion of the chair as to whether they just accept your motion or they accept other motions as well. A lot of times what happens is, because delegates want to show that they're participating and get notice, and so another delegate may motion to open the speakers list. If you do a minute, they may move to open the speakers list for 45 seconds. Somebody else may move to open the speakers list for 30 seconds. So that kind of thing will happen. And then some delegates might motion at that point in time. It's probably less common. May motion to open, move to make a motion for an unmoderated caucus. We're going to talk about unmoderated caucuses right now. But for our purposes, I want you to be thinking about this motion to open the speakers list with a speaking time of whatever time. Now, once the chair is done accepting their points or motions, the chair will ask for a vote on all the motions that they've accepted. The way it works is the first motion that gets a majority wins. All the other motions, in theory, go away. So for our purposes, right, we're going to assume that your motion was the only motion that was accepted. So they vote on it. The chair will say, we'll now vote on Cameron's motion to open the speakers list with a speaking time of 1 minute, or whatever time you selected. All those in favor, please raise your placards now. Again, I don't think I have to show this more than one more time, but I'll just do it again. When they ask for votes, you raise your placard vertically, right? The chair will count, and sometimes, like what I said before, the chair will count starting from the left side of the room. The co-chair or the rapporteur or the vice chair, whatever they call it, will count from the other side of the room, and then they'll confer to make sure they got the same number. When they're done, the chair will say, okay, all those opposed Cameron's motion, please raise your placards now. They'll do the same thing. They'll count those who oppose. And then if a majority vote against your motion, and there aren't any other motions, the chair really doesn't have any other options. They're just going to go back to, are there any points or motions on the floor? That's that little black line on the left side on the flow chart that goes back to points or motions, because if you've opened debate but nobody's opened the speakers list, there's really nothing you can do, right? So oftentimes this motion will pass. But if a majority vote in favor of your motion, right, then the chair will indicate that a majority supported the motion, and the name of your country will be placed on the speakers list. The speakers list is actually a list that's going to be usually projected on a screen in front of the committee, and your name will be put first, meaning you'll be called first to speak. Now remember, what you're going to be talking about at this point is setting the agenda. And so this is why it's a good idea to make the motion to open the speakers list, because if you get called on, you're going to be the first person to speak about a matter of substance, about setting the agenda. And so what they'll do is after your name is written, right, the chair will say something like, everybody will use slightly different terminology. After your name is written down, other delegates wishing to be added to the speakers list, please raise your placards now. Again, in a case like that, because you're trying to be recognized, hold your placard horizontally so that they can read it. But again, you might want to, I know it's above where you can see, but raise it up in the air. Depending on whether delegates are sitting, you may want it on that side, you may want it on that side. Do me a favor, don't do the that kind of stuff. It's just irritating. Don't do it. You're supposed to be behaving in a way that's professional. So the chair will go ahead and have delegates raise their placards, and the chair will start reading off the names. So whoever else is on the dais will start writing them down, right? So that you can see, so that you can see who's on the list. If you're Bolivia and your placard was up, it doesn't say Bolivia. If you're Bolivia and your placard's up, and then they say Russia, China, Bolivia, as soon as you see your names on the speakers list, put your placard down. No need to keep it up any longer. So the chair will begin then to call on delegates, and that's the process by which they populate the speakers list. Now, the number of delegates that a chair decides to recognize is up to the chair. Some will do 10, some will do 20. It'll vary by every conference. Then, when the chair is done calling on the names of different countries to be put on the speakers list, the chair will say something like, delegates who wish to be added to the speakers list should send a note to the dais, right? The note should be sent on a small piece of paper using the same way, the method that I talked about in an earlier video. You want to fold a piece of paper, a small piece of paper. On the outside, it should say to chair. It should be from the name of your country, in this case, Cameroon. And on the inside, it just needs to say, please add Cameroon to the speakers list. That's all, right? Make it legible. Sometimes the chairs will get, or the dais will get a whole bunch of notes, and it's impossible to read what they are. If you don't see your name on the list, it means that they either didn't get your note or they couldn't read your note. Now, there's no rule, as I said before, about how to send notes to the chair, but the key principle is to do it in the least disruptive way possible. So if the seating arrangement is such that you can just pass it to another delegate, they'll look and they'll see to the chair and they'll just keep passing it forward. And if there's a delegate who's sitting right next to the dais, they'll get your note, they'll say it's to the chair, and what they'll do is they'll just put it on the table. That's the easiest way to do. If no one's sitting next to the chair, you can hand deliver it. You can walk up, but they don't want a whole bunch of delegates walking up at one time. That's kind of rude. So you're going to have to want to wait for your spot. Don't walk in directly in front of the chair ever. That's just straight out rude. Don't walk in front of a delegate who's speaking. You can approach from the side and just quietly, gently just stick your note down, right, to be added to the speakers list. But most often, what's going to happen is you're going to pass that note forward. And as I said before, some conferences have pages. So in a case like that, all you want to do is you're going to write your note to the chair from Cameroon, and then you just hold it up in the air. Eventually, they'll come by and they'll just pick it. They'll take it from you. They'll look and see what it's from, and they'll deliver it to the chair. And once again, are you ever going to volunteer to be a page? When the chair asks, my producer shaking his head, no. Never volunteer to be a page, okay? And if I walk in the room and see you, that you volunteered to be a page, like duck behind the seats, right? Hide so that I don't see you, because otherwise I'm going to be pissed. Okay, that's it. Now next, what we're going to do in the next videos, we're going to go to flowchart 1, a formal debate on setting the agenda.